Sacred Garden Culture Network with High Priest Kwatamani, sacred ancestral soothsayer, soul seer, spiritual healer and revealer, founding father and spiritual chief elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis tribe, the oldest, longest sustained, 100% raw and living, plant-consuming family community order known over half a century and still going strong.
Greetings, bringing you Nitty Gritty 6 in the mix of this earth-shifting, climate-changing fix, where master deceivers triple tricks to accelerate the doom and gloom time clock ticks.
Hey, like it or not, planet getting hot, gotta deal with my aunt. Doing this green earth solar cycle melting pot. Yeah, it's the gathering time. Time to gather them seeds, plant them trees, free them bees. Time to label and toil in fertile soil. Basic needs, clean water, fresh air breathe. Please listen, earth, solar, son, and daughter. Nowhere to hide outside divine order.
This is to expose those lost souls who raped, enslaved, murdered, and stole to gain control, standing opposed to the good of the greater whole. Pay close attention to what you're being told.
The people in power are spending their time looking for false solutions and finding and creating loopholes which maintains business as usual and keeps them in the position of power. And the truth now is that these processes are failing. They are failing us here in this room. They are failing our children. They are failing all of humanity and the future generations to come. But most importantly, they are failing the people bearing the brunt of this crisis.
Life is for the living, forgiving. Death is for those expecting. Life to be resurrecting from the dead. If you think you have heard what the iron I've said, follow this thread. Be you blonde, black head, or nappy, not the dread. Roll call. This is to all of y'all divided we fall. Together we stand a chance to advance.
Current policies are taking the world to a 2.8 degree temperature rise by the end of the century. That spells catastrophe, yet the collective response remains pitiful. We are hurtling towards disaster, eyes wide open, with far too many willing it all on wishful thinking, unproven technologies, and silver bullet solutions. It's time to wake up and step up.
Mother Earth is facing a serious crisis, a critical mass extinction is what we're being told. We, the children of Mother Earth, we, the sacred ancestral children of the sun, have to make some decisions. If, in fact, we expect survival, we got to get right on it right here and right now and take the kinds and type of measures that will safeguard food security, shelter, tender loving care, fresh water, clean, wholesome air. It seems as though so many are simply ignoring these holistic living facts in order to satisfy their personal whims, wants, and desires. We got to get about organizing divine social, economic, family, community, order networks.
When it rain, it pour. Time to get deep into the core to see things one has been taught to ignore. The battle of the sexes, hexes, yeah. Two parts to one whole, split in two. This is how opposition grew.
The first thing is to establish a unified bond relationship between man, he, and she. That's a very difficult task. Because he has been groomed and conditioned into a monotheistic mindset that says he is the almighty and omnipotent, ignoring the fact that that's an impossibility based on all the circumstances of the universal expression of life.
Ain't trying to offend those God-fearing men who told us woman was the birthplace of sin. And then after a while they crucified her son child, made her bend, wave her mother of humanity.
That particular mindset, which is the principle of operation of a warlord syndrome, the I came, I saw, I conquered syndrome, which ignores everything except I came, I saw, I conquered, I was satisfied. I ripped, I stripped, I raped, I stole, I enslaved and took control. If you take that mindset and you turn it loose, anything that it encounters will be used to satisfy its lusting desire for power, to dominate, control, and rule over others. And it matters not if it means the absolute destruction of Mother Earth and all living things thereof. It definitely matters not as to what happens to the rest of humanity. And it matters not which self destroys the other self. That struggle of self, domination, control, and rule continues into hell and damnation. So we're talking about the idea of establishing divine socioeconomic family community order network. Let's look at the feminine. The feminine has become a master in maneuvering. If she has been maneuvered by monotheistic syndrome, then it's going to create something in her that's going to manifest the lower and lesser nature of femininity, no matter how you look at it. She then will become a strategist. You see, what is forgotten in this whole scenario is that just as we've ignored Mother Nature and misused and abused her and turned her out, and now she's going through what one may call a reactionary syndrome, she's trying to correct her situation. And by the same token, when we talk about the feminine, she has been groomed and conditioned into a reactionary emotional state of being that will not allow her to see clearly. It will not allow her to recognize that, wait, hey, baby, you're putting your own being in endangerment. You have to be she who will select who we be upon this earth as man, he, and she. There's something missing. And she continues to breed what is missing because the example that she's been given, the leadership of guidance and protection that she has been given has been monotheistically formulated by a mindset that breeds, seed, and feed disorder. The primary point that we all need to understand at this particular time on Mother Earth is that she, the feminine essence, and how she produced will reflect the nature of energy that she has consumed, the energy that has given her guidance as to what becomes of she. Now, it don't necessarily mean the goddess syndrome, because that's equally as impossible. We need a unified bond of masculine and feminine energy, a unified bond of oneness, creating that magnificent reflection of energy that is called the black wholeness. The whole idea of perpetuating the battle of the sexes has been used as a tool, an economic tool, a dominating, controlling, and ruling tool. And actually, the more the male has been groomed and conditioned into a monotheistic nature of thought and reasoning and action, the more he becomes cocky, arrogant, and vain, and sincerely, wholeheartedly feel that he's dominating, he's controlling, he's the biggest, and he has the ability, and he'll kick her behind, and all these other different kinds of syndromes that actually lower and lessen his own nature of presence upon this earth. Because the more abuse she receives, the more she will put that abuse back into the next generation. Common sense reasoning. You have two parts to one wholeness, separated, divided, conquered against each other. And she birthed. So hers began in the womb. And in that womb, the conflict, confusion, and chaos that manifests within her begins a process, a negative, oppositional consciousness of thought that will breed a Warlord syndrome. What possibly could have happened that would cause the birth of a monotheistic opposite, diametrically opposed to divine order, seeking to satisfy his self-asserted urges? It reminds that of today. When you hear these monotheistic offsprings talking as though it is just the norm. We're upon this earth as souls embodied in flesh with a divine, natural, innate duty, obligation, responsibility to go forward and multiply our presence in divine order for the survival of our species as a part of an enhancement of a holistic living presence called life. And that as part of a greater nucleus of existence called life, we serve a part, just like your organs serve a part, your liver, your lungs, just as your heartbeat serve a part, your brain, your fingers, the thumb, the feet, the knees. Everything has a purpose within this magnificent gift of life. I was in a communications the other day. This communication was coming from a dear soul. The soul had gotten into a state of pure confusion, frustration, let's call it frustration. And the bottom line of the soul was like, Papa, on the one hand, I know I don't belong inside of a status quo that actually opposes my existence, and I see it. It's been groomed and conditioned. It will not allow I to raise up to the masculine presence I need to be so that I can give the kind of guidance, direction, protection to the feminine that I have been mated with. And as a result of that, she stands over here, and he's actually kind of standing in the middle because he has offsprings and he wants to fulfill his masculine duty and responsibility to those offsprings. But he don't fit into the syndrome that she has adopted, assimilated, and integrated. And she's actually birthing more of that offspring of assimilation, integration, and adaptation off of his energy. He said it's one hell of a dilemma. And he feel like sometimes just go and die, because at least if he do that, he won't be tormented like this. Say, if he did not see, and I repeat, if he did not see the Kwatamani First Genesis tribe as a holistic living reality on a daily basis, every single time he see it still manifesting and growing and developing, he would have no desire to maintain life. And I said, listen, son, spirit, that is a vibration that actually is part of the nature of the syndrome that you have been groomed and conditioned and birthed into. Somehow within you, you've had that feel, that soul feel of breaking away from that cursed nature. But the cursed nature has gotten control of the feminine energy, just as it has focused on controlling Mother Earth, taking all of her natural resources, sucking the life energy out of her, disrespecting her, rip and strip mining her, and anything that is necessary to satisfy that monotheistic, ego-driven self that will destroy us all. And something inside of you do not want to continue to support that vibration. She has been stripped away from you, and you don't even know it. She has been groomed and conditioned and educated and re-educated and re-educated and educated by a system that made it very clear from its origin that it must prevent the rise of a green earth, solar, conscious nature of energy. It goes all the way back to the story of Asar and a Set and Nebuchadnezzar. It goes all the way back to that original story that we got from ancient Kemetic telling. And we don't even want to look at it. We don't want to face the fact. This is what I told his son. We don't want to face the fact that what has happened is a similar occurrence, because we've heard and talked about a continuous war. A war between the uncle, quote, Set, and the son of Asar, quote, Harut. And when we look at things in truth and reality, we're not able to understand the pure nature of our own sacred ancestral tellings, which we're facing right now. And that war is at another phase, because we're in another Banu cycle, another 12,594-year cycle of time. And the sun is getting hot, and Mother Earth is shifting and changing. And we had better establish a new consciousness of energy that upholds and maintains Mother Earth, wind, rain, sun, humanity, and all living things thereof, or face the fatal analysis, a final conclusion of self-destruction. Set Sutik Satan is the nature of self. And it's just a simple telling. It is not trying to pass judgment. It's very clear that there are worshipers on all sides of the nature. The basic bottom line at this point in time is that we must come into a oneness of thought and reasoning and action within a divine parallel that will allow us to safeguard our existence as humanity, Mother Earth, and all living things thereof. And it starts very simple and very clearly, believe it or not. The holistic living unification of masculine and feminine energy, two parts to one wholeness that has the ability to birth a new consciousness. But as it is such a struggle, because the two parts to one wholeness are divided, conquered, separated, and ruled by a nature of self-deified individualism. A nature of self-deified individualism that will allow a male to say that his greatest desire is to find him a mate that he can sexually enjoy on a daily basis and walk around and let everybody know that he conquered this trophy, and to have him a vehicle that can be declared as his own material thing that he can ride around, let everybody see his sense of conquest and make him look as though he's financially satisfied, ignoring the fact that that offspring is the primary reason for our existence, but not to glorify one's own ego-driven self, to have humility, dignity, and respect for Mother Earth, wind, rain, sun, and all living things thereof, so as to become a majestic part of life. And instead of breathing, seeding, and feeding the sacred ancestral gift of love, respect, dignity, humility, grace, the principles of Ma'at in living everyday experiences, one is breeding envy, jealousy, greed, war, wrath, blood spill, selfishness. And that's what's disrupting our existence right now on this earth. And to imagine someone who having the gift of having this information and knowing this and continue to walk the strides of toxic disorder. Self-destruction is obvious. It is a known reality that a self-asserted being controlled by the mental behaviors of toxic disorder is setting the soul up to be consumed into oblivious nothingness. Whereas to have the divine humility and grace allows the soul to continue its sojourn into a magnificent presence of divine order that is eternal. Now, someone did ask us, well, then if in fact this opposing nature will destroy the existence, it won't destroy the universe. We can go to another planet. We can do this. We can do that. Ego-driven ignorancy. What we can do right now is correct the experience, the circumstances that we are facing in our sojourn. And if we have honor, dignity, and humility toward our soul journey, then we need to get to work to focus every ounce of our living energy on breathing, seeding, and feeding a holistic living consciousness of divine order into a new generation. We need to strategize. The strategy actually begins with the idea of recognizing what is fact. The fact is, man, he and she is divided into two different camps. There is no camp of unified oneness. There is no recognition anymore by so many of the fact that he and she is two parts of one wholeness, man. And that man as a unit does not identify he, the masculine. That's what is man, which means what is she? So then they say, woe man. She brings woe upon man. Who determines that? It is very clear by the nature of what is expressed that it is a he that is saying that she brings woe upon him because he's the dominant one and she's not submitting to his will, not recognizing how the thing works. And right now, it is a mess. And to try to divest from that mess is the greatest challenge that any he or any she has. But our soul journey is to divest. What has happened is the herbivorous population of humanity has looked, listened, learned, discerned all the elements of that predatorial nature and has assimilated, integrated, and adopted that predatorial nature. It began clear and obviously in the burning desert. It began in the cold, freezing blight. It began anywhere that man, he and she began to become isolated into a state of reasoning where one has to become a cold-blooded, warring being, seeking and searching the full self, the self-asserted will, survival of the fittest. It's overstood. But now Earth has shifted and changed, and we have got to shift and change into a new consciousness quick, fast, and in a hurry, or we're not going to survive. And I'm just bringing this as a message of conscious reasoning. Understanding that she has been groomed and conditioned by a nature opposed to her existence, and that all the attitudes that she carried, the emotional trauma, all of those things are there, and we have to detox and purge and heal, and it is a mighty task. It is very difficult, extremely difficult in some instances, to get her to get off of those emotional, traumatic states of her behavior and her thinking and her reasoning. And it has become, in many instances, exactly what that oppositional nature dreamed of it becoming. Seeing the female as the woes of man. But only if the man can recognize that he is the woe of she if he do not devote his energy to resurrecting Mother Spirit, she, Mother Earth, every element of motherhood becomes his divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility. Just like every element of birthing a new generation of consciousness is her divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility in her womb. But she cannot do it separately, and he cannot do it separately. They must be able to come together within a unified bond of oneness, and there need to be eldership guiding and protecting this. There need to be what was said earlier, divine social, economic, family, community networking. That's our challenge right now. This presentation is about that challenge, divine social, economic, family, community networking. How are we going to work through this maze of conflict, confusion, and chaos to network masculine and feminine energy, to come to an agreement to say very clearly that my primary duty, obligation, responsibility as a he, or her as a she, is to come into a unified bond of oneness so that we can breed, seed, and feed a new consciousness in the womb of she and out of the semen and sperm of he, so that when they come into that bondness, it's far more than a momentary, enthusiastic big bang. It is a big bang of holistic living reality, re-emerging the consciousness of he and she into the glory of a holistic living way of life. There's no question. We must get past the 666 alliance that perpetuates conflict, confusion, chaos, and defiance against the holistic living presence of 9 divine order, in order for we, humanity, to begin a new cycle. Just thinking of how this can be said. Years ago, and I brought forward something from the unseen, from the ancestors, and that was in 1999. The time of the 999 Alliance, and I focused on the fact that, hey, this is the divine social, economic, family, community gathering time. The gathering of the 999, an expression that will continue from this part forward, and it will tell a story that we need to pay attention to as it moves forward, quick, fast, and in a hurry. That is 9 for the brain. And that counted off in years to 09, 2009. 9 for the body, the embodiment of a holistic living way of life. Brain reasoned and thought out, which would lead to the 18, 2018. And 9 for the spirit. 9, 18, 27. And now I hear talk of the fact that we have to, as humanity, get some corrections quick, fast, in a hurry, or we're going to face something that humanity have no possibility of going through without serious damage. And they were talking about it being 2030, initially 2050. People speculating because they hear and sense things from the universe of divine order, and they take it and run with it and try to say what they don't know and don't comprehend. And now they're saying it's 2028. What I say is this. Again, just piecemealing, dealing with the holistic living reason for healing, feeling the feeling of humanity, dealing with the impending 9/11, 9/18/27, dealing with what is in store as we prepare to enter the door of what will be AD 2024, the sleeper where the gatekeeper is the grim weeper. Dealing with the zips and the zaps as the stakeholder get even bolder while he sucks, sapping, and trap. Dealing with rapping this rap as a roadmap out of the insanity of pale vanity. Dealing with the obstacles in the way that prevent the sacred few from hearing what the I and I have to say. But the ancestors say it anyway. Done say it.